This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 437 for the week of March 18th, 2018. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Kanzenshuu,
the podcast,
an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site.
Kanzenshuu.
That's right, we cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit of entertaining. Now that we finally have a weekend without snow.
Yes! In March.
In March. Welcome back, Jeff, over there.
I was wondering where that booming bass was coming from.
No, Meri, you do a really good impression.
Of what?
Of me.
Practice.
Decades of practice.
A lot of smoking.
Anyway, so Jeff is here. That means we are back in
GT.
We're back in GT land. Another round of our Dragon Ball GT review of Awesomeness. Joining us again, Meri. Hello.
Hi. I live here.
You do live here. So that's Jeff. That's Meri. I am Mike. Vegeta EX. Please just call me Mike. The next round of our Dragon Ball GT review of Awesomeness. Don't promise things. Never say, oh yeah, we got our schedule. We got our time frame. We're totally good. Because then it's
How long has it been?
It was almost 2 months again.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually suspected that was the case.
I mean, it's not 10 years, so.
Not 5 years.
So what we do, ostensibly here on this here podcast, is each month we take another batch of Dragon Ball GT episodes, a follow-up to our previous manga review of Awesomeness many years ago. We are now into GT land. This here episode, we are covering Dragon Ball GT episodes 23 through 27. That is the entirety of the content of our podcast episode this week. We will recap what happens in the episodes, what happened before these episodes themselves, and we'll go around and we'll get some perspectives. Meri, I'm pretty sure you have never seen these episodes before.
I'll have to go. So I want to go back and look at my fan sub lists. I'm pretty sure I've never seen these before.
Yeah.
I'll get into why I'm a little bit confused once we get into the episode,
Okay.
But I'm 90% certain I have not seen these episodes, but I have reason to believe I may have, but it's very, very slim.
Okay. I have seen, I think of these episodes, I saw the last two. So
Okay.
that's something.
And Jeff's new to this.
Yeah, Jeff, entirely new. As you were for the manga, you are the new fan coming in completely new, getting that perspective.
Except this time, there's no TV show that I've seen, unlike with the manga where I had seen the Cell Saga,
Bits and pieces,
some bits and pieces of Dragon Ball. This time around with GT, I'd never seen a thing of GT, and still have continued to not watch any of it until I come here.
So why don't we lay down what the ground rules are?
Yes, I do want to cover that again as we are in the wake of the death of Dragon Ball Super. The Dragon Ball GT review of Awesomeness should have been complete by the time that Dragon Ball Super existed in 2015.
But we were slow.
We were slow. We took too long, and we finally got back around to it. So as we do these reviews of Dragon Ball GT moving forward, when we don't mention Dragon Ball Super, it's not that we missed something. It's not that we forgot something. We believe that GT could and should have been reviewed in a bubble, and it's our fault for not doing it in a timely fashion. And once Dragon Ball Super comes to a close, which will actually be this month, there will be time down the road to compare the entirety completed show of Dragon Ball Super versus the entirety completed show of GT versus Super there. So
Can I say up front how hard that is, especially with this batch of episodes?
Yeah, it really does.
To be like, there's things I can now look back on these episodes of GT and in relation to the current stuff have some very strong opinions.
Yeah.
Even as someone who's a filthy casual like me.
I would not call you a filthy casual.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Jeff is the filthy casual.
I'm a filthy casual, yeah, totally.
That all being said, I'm going to do my damn best to just like separate that
You
and
have
treat it as its own entity.
I think it's important. And I know, I don't think we mentioned it last time on the show, but especially like this point, this month, right now, I think it's important to reiterate that fact.
It's hard for me personally to do that when I'm literally staring at this gorgeous Dragon Ball Super poster and this fan art underneath it, which is also badass. Who did that?
That was Dylan.
Dylan, great job.
We got the Join the Pride Troopers and Universe 11 forces over here. So that's pretty much it. Are y'all ready for Dragon Ball GT?
I'm so ready. I gotta do it while it's fresh in my head.
All right, Dragon Ball GT episodes 23 through 27. Here we go. All right, where we last left our heroes in the previous batch of episodes, my baby was discovered and destroyed Question mark, exclamation point. We learned that Baby was actually the creator. Dr. Mew was just a machine mutant like all the other creations. Baby was the true mastermind here, and Baby had escaped off into space. So we pick up there with Dragon Ball GT episode 23, A Hidden Danger, the derelict ship and the mysterious boy. So episode 23, this is an awful looking episode. For those of you who follow along with animators and all that kind of stuff, this was Masayuki Uchiyama episode.
Is this Triangles guy?
This is Triangles guy.
I'm sorry. I know he has a real name.
So Gil fixes the ship as expected. We'll get to predictions later on. Basically, everything that Jeff thought was going to happen happens in about the first 2 minutes of this episode. So they fix the ship. Rild grabs them as expected, but they fire a blast at him, and that's it. A piece of Baby crawls out from him, though. There's a Dragon Ball signal on a ship ahead of them all, and they can easily go get this 1-star Dragon Ball, except that Gil miscalculated. They only have a couple minutes to escape from the ship, which is about to fall into basically what's turning into a supernova, black hole-ish kind of thing going on there. Goku and Trunks catch missiles from some kind of security robot thing with their arms and their legs and their teeth. And after that, they grab an unconscious alien that looks like the quintessential rejected Toriyama design to end all quintessential rejected Toriyama designs.
Mentally, I couldn't stop calling him Broccoli Boy.
That sounds about right. Can I just ask you all, why did they need space bikes if they can just fly in space?
Because we saw how hard it was for Pan, who's relatively new to all this. She was struggling. She literally was falling behind.
That was the gravity that was pulling her back, not just regular. Anyway, they go to planet Pital with the injured alien, and he's evil or something. And that brings episode 23 to a close. That brings us to Dragon Ball GT episode 24, Baby Strikes Back. Target the Saiyans. Goku saves the kid and the doctor from some explosions. The kid is making explosions and breaking out. And the kid is clearly just Baby. Goku really hates this place. He's not a fan of hospitals and needles and all that jazz. Baby just wants to take their Saya power. And then the deer sexually assaults Pan. Anyway, Baby Boy comes up to talk to her. Goku and Trunks come back, and Baby infects the doctor instead. Then Baby Doctor invites them to come eat in the hospital cafeteria and invites Trunks along for a tour. He reveals himself and attacks Trunks. I guess they didn't completely destroy all of Baby's cells. He moved from Mew to Rild and beyond to just keep following them. Goku and Pan followed them, though. They could tell there was a suppressed key signature energy thing and recognized when it flared up. So they were just playing along this whole time. They blast him around for a bit. Trunks gets sliced on the arm and Baby jumps inside him. However, Baby cannot fully control Trunks. Trunks goes Super Saiyan and seems to force him out. Baby goes to escape and jumps on with people going to planet Alta. But Goku's hungry and stuff, and Baby just seems to have taken out the whole ship, and that's how that episode ends. Now we're on to episode 25 of Dragon Ball GT. This is terrible! Baby appears on Earth. Goten and Chi-Chi are at Capsule Corporation, and Vegeta is shaving. Why does Vegeta care what Goten thinks about a shave? But that's kind of the best scene ever, followed only by the subsequent scenes, which is Vegeta's reaction to Bra commenting on Vegeta's facial hair and state of his facial hair. We have a great comic visual of this missing whisker that gets pulled off as Goku and the others are going after a Dragon Ball. It gets a little dotted missing whisker. Great visual gags here. It basically turns into an episode of Looney Tunes for a couple minutes where he's running off onto a non-existent plane of space off the cliff and falls down and makes a hole in the ground. And then the birds are flying around his head as he's dizzy. And then the birds seem to appear independently and fly away as if they are real birds and not just visual design birds. It's kind of the best thing we've seen in Dragon Ball GT up until this point. I'm just commenting on that here in the recap portion of our episode.
Because it's that worth it.
Because I feel that strongly about it. But moving on in the episode, there's a baby buff dude and he's interrupting a bank robbery looking for the Saiyans. Every time I say baby, just so you know, I'm not literally not little children, but the character baby. I know we're all following along at home.
Capital B, baby.
Capital B, baby, just saying.
I can't convince you to pronounce it baby.
No, you cannot, because it's baby.
Fan subs have poisoned my mind.
Fan sub girl over here. Bebi, Vegeta, Torankusu.
For what it's worth, I never called him Vegeta or Torankusu.
All right. Anyway, getting back to the episode.
Mr. TK.
Dragon Ball GT is turning for the better here. We talked about Baby Buff Dude. Okay, so Goten gets ice cream for his girlfriend Palace, which I know fans of girl.
Paris.
Her name is Paris.
Or Paris.
But we're going with Palace here. Mr. Satan arrives to fight Baby Buff Dude, and then Goten stumbles in, but he's on a date. He really can't do this. Oh, but my pupil here will take care of it. What pupil are you talking about? Where is it? Oh, that's me. The guy is trouble, though. Goten jumps in, and he can tell something's going on. Baby is jumping around bodies and stuff, and they're going in for Goten. One more time after the police arrive and seem to take care of things, Goten further knows what's going on. Baby can feel the Saiyan ki from Goten. It is truly, truly, truly
outrageous.
Time to fight.
Damn it.
That takes us to Dragon Ball GT episode 26, Gohan and Goten, the worst brotherly quarrel. Apparently, Goten can easily take a phone call while fighting. More of the greatest scenes in Dragon Ball GT history here. Goten gets sliced on the arm, though. Baby takes the opportunity when Goten is on the offense to jump in and infect him. Baby says he wasn't able to read Trunks' memory, but he can read Goten's and learns of Vegeta here. Out in space, they are still going after the Dragon Balls. Goku murders a dragon, but then the dragon just appears little and has a band-aid, so I guess Goku did not, in fact, murder a dragon. In my headcanon, Goku murdered a dragon for a Dragon Ball here. Goku wonders why they haven't seen Baby yet. Also, Piccolo exists, and there's a clock with Vegeta holding up a clock. Anyway, Gohan and Videl stop by Capsule Corporation. Baby Goten arrives. Videl and Gohan know something's up, so Gohan and Baby leave to fight. When Gohan transforms, though, this is when Baby rushes in, and Piccolo arrives, and nothing really comes of that because he just kind of blows Piccolo away as far as we can tell. But Baby just wants Vegeta. That brings us to Dragon Ball GT episode 27, the final episode we will be covering here on this episode of our podcast. Dragon Ball GT episode 27, Ambition Achieved. Vegeta is taken over. Jeff, that's why I started skipping episode titles as we were moving along, watching things.
I thought that was on purpose.
Yes. Vegeta and Bra went shopping, apparently for Toriyama branded shaving cream. I appreciate the little nod there. Baby Gohan senses Vegeta. Goku sneezes all over Trunks on the way to the last Dragon Ball. It was kind of gross and disgusting and a wonderful scene out in space. Gohan attacks Vegeta and Bra, but Vegeta recognizes, after a little bit of banter, his Sufruian ki. Goten is still possessed, apparently, though. We have a new eye catch, by the way, here starting in this episode for the first time. Baby Gohan gives Vegeta a pretty nice thrashing, but this is when Vegeta starts getting serious, lots of ki blasts going around. And then Baby Goten arrives back to help. He doesn't say who he is here to help. He is actually possessed and evil and here to help his likewise possessed evil brother. Vegeta gets sliced, and as he powers up, Baby jumps into him. And this is where we get the GT version of the Saiyan/Sufruian backstory, where King Sufru put his cells inside of this synthetic parasite life form kind of thing and shot himself out into space as the Saiyans conquered this homeworld, and it became a planet Vegeta owned and operated by your Saiyan overlords. Out in space, they get the last Dragon Ball, and that brings episode 27 of Dragon Ball GT to a close. We will now commence our reviewing of these 5 episodes of a series called Dragon Ball GT that aired 20 years ago. Jeff, each time on the show, we do predictions. You make new predictions, and then next time we check in on old predictions. Let's check in on last time's predictions now, because they were all pretty much addressed within the first couple minutes.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you said if Baby flies away and we don't see him for a while, we're pretty good. It was less a prediction, more of hopes for you on that end. Not so much.
Well, I never made it a secret that I wasn't a huge fan of this Baby character, even though it was a really short amount of time that we got to see them.
Yeah, you hadn't really seen him yet, but we were so sick of everything before it that it was, whatever's coming, we really can't care any less about it.
Yeah, I did want to see us move on from that. And needless to say, that really did not happen.
No.
And I'll get into that later on as we talk about it. But yeah, I was wrong there.
We had a lot of questions about planets and spaceships and how's this all going to get resolved because the spaceship was covered in metal. But as we saw, Gil had the device and they just immediately go back and the spaceship is okay, no problem. But then the question is, Rild is not only on that planet, but right now is that planet, how will that get resolved? And Rild does indeed reach out to them, but they just fire at him and they fly away and everything's fine.
That bothered me a little bit.
Thank you. Yes.
It's like, it's okay, 3 Kamehamehas.
Little dinky little beam.
After all that, it kind of renders the previous episodes like really useless.
Yeah.
From a fighting
Agreed.
standpoint, not from a story standpoint, but
Absolutely agreed with that. I could not believe that it was that simple, that the three of them just had to fire ki and that's it. They're done.
and here was my mental gymnastics to kind of get over it. Was I thought, okay, well, Rill's already been
beaten up,
and he's weak, and maybe that is all it takes
Yeah.
because he's already in a weakened state. I guess
They just got to move along for all sorts of reasons.
I mean,
on
trust
so
me,
many
the
levels.
last thing I want is more time with that character. So
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like kind of okay with it, but
And that's what I was kind of getting into in my prediction there, just saying, let's end the storyline, just move on. This has been going on for a bit too long here.
Basically, at that point, you said, oh, we got Dragon Balls to worry about. We just more adventures. Let's move on and just take care of it. And really, that's what happens. We ended up with Baby the whole time, but that's really what happened is they resolved that stuff immediately and went off on other not so much adventures and just went off for the Dragon Balls. And in this batch of episodes, they achieved everything. Why don't we take a step back again and just start talking about these episodes? Episode 23 was a real rough one, guys.
it was probably the roughest of the 5,
I
mainly
agree.
from an animation standpoint.
Oh, that's for sure.
brutal
But not
looking.
necessarily from a story standpoint. From a story standpoint, I actually found it kind of refreshing. Like it was a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
I found this episode.
Really, like the injured alien boy and
Yeah.
getting off the planet.
Like and just dealing with simple shit like gravity is pulling us in. Oh no, beat the clock. And it was just nice to not be on that planet anymore, that I appreciated any change of scenery, even despite how off model everyone looked and how shoddy the animation was. I'm like, I don't care. We're starting fresh. I don't care. It's fine.
I think even though I wasn't satisfied with the way that they dealt with Rild, when they finally got out of that planet's existence and just went to something else, it was like just a sigh of relief at that point because we got to move on and do something else and deal with new characters. Although it's funny, you say it's a Toriyama throwaway, and I didn't really feel that way about this boy character
His
that
little
they
design,
come across.
yeah?
I don't know. I was like, oh, it's a green-haired Secret of Mana character.
yeah.
Maybe that's kind of the throwaway because we see that kind of thing in Chrono Trigger 2 with that sort of design. But still, I thought it was really interesting. He just seemed like some average kid. And God forbid, we don't really get any detail on this guy whatsoever. Besides,
Like, why is he the only surviving person on this ship?
Well, right before we started recording, Jeff and I were like, I got questions. What's going on here? Because the whole time we've been confused about Baby shot himself off into some ship. What ship was that? What planet was that going toward? How did Baby end up here? But his cells are actually still down over there as well. Baby seems to be in a billion places at once.
but it made sense the way you framed it, where it's possible that the spaceship or what would you call it, like a baby space, like
Whatever Baby left in
Yeah.
from M2 or Dr. Mew's planet, we never really resolved for ourselves who was where. It seemed like, okay, Baby left, and whatever happened, he's the thing that took out that spaceship and infected that child, and that's where
heading
that
towards
Dragon
the
Ball
sun.
was.
Yeah. I
Heading
mean, like
towards the
that
sun.
makes a lot of sense. If
When you reduce it down to that,
Yes.
it makes sense, but like nothing logically seems to follow to get you to that point. You kind of have to just brush it aside and explain it for yourself.
we're not given any hints either. For example, I was saying if they had just shown the ship that he escaped M2 with, then that could have connected the spaceship going into the sun with Baby's own little spaceship that crashes into it or ends up there. Because that would connect the two pieces and make sense for the audience. I mean, granted, the main characters can't see it because then they
Yeah.
already know what's going on.
Right,
But
right.
for us, it would have been a nice tease or a foreshadowing. And it was just a missed opportunity. So, but I feel like at least that connects the previous episode to this well enough.
Well, they didn't want to tell you because they wanted the surprise of the alien boy being infected by Baby to genuinely be a surprise. So
but do
they
you
can't
know?
give it away.
Do you have any idea how aggravated I got to see that? Oh, great, we're still on this Baby thing.
Yeah.
And I'll leave the rest of my opinion on that for these other episodes
Okay.
because we never get away from Baby, really.
No, we don't. I feel like this starts the turning point for GT in a variety of ways. Ignore story for a second. This episode, we start getting fun visual gags.
And not that we haven't had that, but it
definitely
seems
have.
more.
It seems more earnest and
Yeah, like we're
fun
going
now.
all in. It's not like, okay, here's a half-hearted like gag.
Just
I
exaggerated
say that, and yet a
faces.
lot of the jokes were Goku being hungry.
In this episode, we had, like I mentioned in the recap, the catching with her teeth and all that, and we're going to see the Looney Tunes style stuff. It just feels like, oh, they're going to take this opportunity, the way the story is going, let's have some fun. We have some breathing room here. It's actually things are moving, I feel like, throughout these episodes at an appropriate pace, finally.
You nailed it.
We're not just standing around staring at each other. Even when people are fighting, we're not getting the, oh, I'm just getting serious. Even when Vegeta finally decided to get serious, it was only after about like 10, 15 seconds of kind of nonsense. Like they got right to it at that point. These episodes really felt like, after we got past the first, and even then it wasn't that bad, it felt like an appropriate clip we were moving at.
I completely agree. I was thinking as we were on episode 5, not only am I enjoying this, but I feel like it's the best set of episodes from a pacing standpoint that we've seen so far, even more so than the first 4 episodes. Like the pacing, I don't know what it is about it. It just nailed it, where each episode feels like it was distinct and not bleeding one into another.
Yep.
Which God, with the last set of episodes we watched, I couldn't tell you one episode from the next, really.
Isn't that curious how they were very episodic, but they very naturally bled into each other?
Because like baby was the common thread. I mean, much to Jeff's,
Jeff's grin over here. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about baby a little bit then. As that connective tissue, you weren't looking forward to him, and we'll span multiple episodes. We're going to, as we do in these reviews, we go in and out all over the place. So, Jeff, how have you felt about Baby is the new true antagonist? He's pretty much here the entire time. Is he doing anything for you at this point in the story?
Well, first I'm confused because my first thought is I thought we were done with Frieza. And like this is another personified Frieza, just maybe not as aristocratically badass as Frieza is, right?
Right.
In terms of how he acts as a character, the whole badass part to him, to me, it feels slightly unwarranted, although, yeah, he's the reason why there was M2 and all that. He created all that, and he's coming from this. But I didn't get that information until the 5th episode that we watched.
Until we actually get that flashback
Until
stuff.
27.
Yeah.
So it took that long.
So, Jeff, you don't know anything about the Sulfurians. That's because you read the manga. Now,
You did it the right way.
You did it the right way. So the Sulfurians are a race that Toriyama came up with for initially a filler episode in the Dragon Ball Z TV series.
No way.
Yes. So when Goku first visits Kaio's planet and is doing his original training there, we get this back history of the Saiyans versus the Sulfurians on that planet and how they turned into the giant monkeys and they took over, and that's kind of the history of them. And the story we got then, because Toriyama had not developed Frieza yet, it's one of those inconsistencies from filler. They say at the time that the god of the planet is what took out Planet Vegeta and destroyed them. We later learned that it was Frieza. So the Sulfurians are a creation of Toriyama. I think it was DBZ episode 20. They didn't stop there, though. Here's where this story, Jeff, has already been told this exact way. Sulfurians exacting their revenge on the Saiyans from a synthetic life form created by a dead old Sulfurian master. So in 1993, there was a game released on the Nintendo Famicom called Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans, where the Sulfurian, Dr. Raichi, created a synthetic machine kind of life form named Hachiyak. And there was all sorts of gas on the planet Earth, and there were ghost warriors, and then they go off to fight him in space. And it was the story of a Sulfurian looking to kill the Saiyans.
So basically what you're saying is that they fall back on this relatively minor plot point and have several revisionist iterations of this thing.
Right. So it's not just, oh, cool, they went back to a little plot point Toriyama developed for TV filler. If it were just that, that would be one thing. Essentially, this exact same story being told in a 1993 Famicom game. That Famicom game was remade into a 2-part video game on the Bandai Playdia in 1994. And that game received a 2-part official visual guide on home video, fully animated, that told the story and acted as a strategy guide. So not only have you, if you're in Japan, possibly heard this story before, you may have seen an exact story of Sulfurians versus Saiyans here. At this point in history, this is an incredible retread. To the average international audience member, it's, oh, cool, that thing from filler in Z one episode.
So then what is better? Is the implementation of that storyline here better, more cohesive than how it was on the Playdia or
I'm
in the filler?
curious to get your thoughts on that. We're only just starting this arc here, really, in Dragon Ball GT.
Fair enough.
We have a ways to go with Baby. 2 very different implementations, obviously, because it's a video game. It's a long story, but it's a very short story at the same time, especially the visual guide. You're in and out with your ultimate battle against Hachiyak there. An important piece of Dragon Ball franchise history. These Sulfurians versus the Saiyans has been told multiple times. Perhaps folks most recently know it from Plan to Eradicate the Super Saiyans was a remake of that feature in, I think it was 2010 for the video game Raging Blast 2. They actually reanimated, updated that feature into about, I think it's about half an hour long, included on that video game. They resurrected Hachiyak as the playable character, so people may remember the Sufurians from there.
Sufurians is an anagram of fruits?
Yes.
Okay.
So Furutsu to Sufuru.
Oh, that's so cute.
With Gene.
So I got fruits versus vegetables?
That is the play on.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
I love it.
So getting back to things as we talk about Baby and Sufurians versus the Saiyans, I guess I'll ask once more, now that you know a little bit more of the history, is this interesting to you in any way whatsoever?
It didn't start that way.
Okay. Well, that's what we were talking about. You didn't get that story until we got to this last episode here.
Yes.
We got the info dump.
And that's where those 5 episodes started to feel better to me, I guess I could say.
Yeah.
Because just starting into it, it was still just, I know this character from this whole M2 saga.
Right.
I just want it to be over. Let's move on and do some more Finding Dragon Ball stuff. That's the cool stuff. And when we get to that last episode, my opinion on it, and as we talk about it and as time goes on, my opinion is changing rapidly, where it's now I'm not so much hating the Baby character as I am the way that it slowly gestated into the story. So we finally got his intent and now know, okay, now he's going against Vegeta. Okay, this is now like a wonderful story that I'm willing to go through. But getting up to that point was such an arduous journey for me.
It's been a slog to get here. Yeah.
But I can't say that it wasn't enjoyable because I really did enjoy these 5 episodes as well, just overall.
Yeah.
It was just that whenever Baby would come in, I'd just be like, a reminder of where we need to progress, basically. But I did get my wish in, there is a quest for the Dragon Balls, even though we don't spend much time on that. But there's still enough of that side story in regards to what's happening on Earth that I feel that was just enough of what I was looking for. And this main storyline was actually a lot more interesting than what they were doing searching for Dragon Balls, funny enough.
Yeah, we've been slogging through these episodes just to get like 3. And now, episode after episode, and now we've acquired like another.
Now we got the easy ones, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Well, and at some point I asked you, was there a change in staff? And the reason why I asked you that is because, okay, the plot is shifting wildly such that the adventuring is taking a backseat. And now we're very much like, fight. I don't know. I guess maybe to a certain extent there's a happy medium because I feel like we got equal parts comedy, action, and then adventuring stuff going on. But I thought it was maybe could have benefited from a little bit more of a transition to rapidly finding the Dragon Balls one episode after the next.
So again, I'll turn it back to the interview with producer Kozo Morishita from the Dragon Box release of Dragon Ball GT. This is what we had talked about previously when they talked about how many episodes they have. And the episode here that he cites is very curious. The question here, midway through the story, enemy characters like Dr. Mew, General Rild, and Baby started popping up, giving a stronger battle tint to the story. And Morishita's response is, initially we made about 26 episodes worth of rough plot outlines, but around when the final script for episode 3 was finished, we thought these travel episodes aren't going to be interesting no matter how long we keep doing them, are they? And so we stopped. That's why Gil and the spaceship stopped appearing midway through, even though we had Sensei go through all the trouble of drawing them for us. So it seems like they developed around these 26 episodes, and it was still early enough that by episode 3, that's when they started discovering, oh, this isn't going to work forever. But when you've already developed that much material.
But at the same time, the episodes that he's referring to sucked. The Real episodes and the Dr. Mew episodes, they suck, but somehow this took like a 180.
So maybe it was, let's just deal with what we have here, and around this point, let's start turning it towards what we want to do. And the thing here is people always talk about, based on the fan feedback, that's when they decide to change it into a battle show. No, it's clearly as early as them finishing the scripts for episode 3 of the show. They independently realized what they had to do.
How's that even possible when the time to animate and produce these episodes takes way longer than, they put out the episodes with Rild and then the fans said, no, this is bad, and then they decided to
People
switch
don't
course?
Think about that. No. Especially in the 90s, there is no immediate feedback that you can get on that kind of stuff.
It's not like South Park days where they could do it in a day and get it out the next day. No, it's not like that. Definitely much longer. But no, actually, I have to say that it's a good thing that they noticed that early on, because definitely when we get the Earth perspective back and we get to see those characters again.
Let's talk about that. The show
Let's go to the next
changes.
episode then. So can I start by saying when this episode started with a exterior shot of Capsule Corp.
You feel something.
I felt like so happy. I think I even said like, oh, thank God we're on Earth. We're on Earth, because I knew like, you're showing us Capsule Corp. That means we're going to get Bulma, we're going to get Vegeta, we're going to get Goten, we're going to get like everybody else in the show. Not that I have anything against the core trio, but there's only so much you can do with them. And I feel like
them for 20 odd episodes.
And Dragon Ball is so much stronger as a series when you've got your ensemble cast to play off one another. And this episode from the onset just set me in such a good mood. And I'm like, I'm ready to consume everything in this episode that you have to throw at me. And even if it was like mediocre, it seemed like gold to me because I was just so ready for it.
I want to bring up an argument, though, that based on that, where the reason why we're so relieved to go back to Earth and see these characters is because the dynamic between the three characters up to this point, the three main characters, is not as strong as they were hoping it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because I was not that interested in Trunks, and Pan would have been a lot more interesting if they had her develop a bit more. I actually really enjoyed a moment in episode 23 where she gets this independent strike in her and goes and does something on the ship on her own, tells the other two to get out.
Oh, yeah, she was actually really cool in that, where she's like, screw you guys, I'm going to go find that life form that's on the ship. I was
Perfect.
like, good on you.
Exactly. If we had more of that, if she could develop more, that would have been more interesting. And I'm really not liking Goku at all in this child form. It just doesn't feel natural. And so just the way that they interact together, it just isn't as strong as when the whole ensemble cast is there.
It's weird. Like, he is undeniably Goku, but there's no one of the right caliber to play off him here.
There's no Krillin.
Yeah.
There's no Krillin. And also we have to do the gag of him being hungry all the time, which is getting really tired at this point.
Yeah, we've moved on from Waku Waku to Hungry.
That being said, I was thrilled in the hospital episode that they remembered that Goku's afraid of needles.
Well,
like, that was a really nice throwback.
Excuse me, that's only in the anime that Goku is afraid of needles.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say,
But this is anime anyways.
That's still cute.
No, it is nice, yeah. We talked about the Looney Tunes stuff before, but it was
gold.
So refreshing to see that. It was just everything. I was smiling during this.
I was beaming like
We're
a...
jumping in and out of episodes.
I know we
here,
are. I don't even remember which episode. Was this the
Now we're
second or
back
third? This was the second or the third
25.
one
The Falling
that we
Game's
watched.
25.
But even before that, like Vegeta shaving was like the
all that stuff was
happiest
great.
thing I've seen.
And
And everyone reacting to it. And the fact that like he asked Goten what he thought, I'm like, okay, canonically, Vegeta shouldn't give two shits about what Goten thinks of his facial hair, but the fact that he's asking.
But he's there and he's that vain about it.
He is.
And as much as I love that stuff, the existential crisis he has over Bra's feedback to his looks is just kind of fantastic.
It is great.
This is the Vegeta that
I love that Vegeta.
we love, who's truly grown into. And I love as we move on the episodes, they're like, no, you will address him as Vegeta-san. He is such a part of the group now. As much as he will rebel against it, he's just the other dad that's a part of this extended family. Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about Baby on Earth, because he does ultimately make his way there. He's hijacked his way to Earth.
I didn't realize it would happen so quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
I was kind of happy about that.
So, Mr. Satan.
Good to see him again, I
Mr.
guess.
Oh, I
Satan
was
being Mr.
so
Satan.
happy to see Mr. Satan again. And I wasn't initially, but as it was going on, because I used to think that he was just a time waster, where it was like he's just trying to make excuses for himself and whatever.
And he is.
And he's doing that here, and it's taking up time. But he's a necessary step to get us to Goten, interacting with Baby as well. And I feel the way that worked was, it just felt so nice that it was nice to see Mr. Satan in this way. I really enjoyed that.
It was a good scene. I love the way the city looks. I think that's something GT actually does well, is the cities and the populace all look good.
Yeah.
I think
even taking like a step back into the space episodes with the prior one, we were at the hospital.
Yeah.
Just like we saw some really unique designs there, like different aliens and stuff.
We did. We also had some of the worst animation, Jeff. You were losing
That was the first episode that we watched.
that scene where
it was just blobs.
Yeah, the blobs moving the kid on the stretcher into the room was not so good.
I'm more referring to the episode after that.
But yeah, I think the people look good. I like the way the city looks. We got some good moments of, I thought he just fell, but okay, I guess someone threw a punch.
And the whole like collective town like looking at him and finally kind of realizing maybe he's actually kind of a shitty dude.
Well, at the same time, I don't know if I want to bring this too much into reality, but when you look at blowhards who use intimidation and anger tactics to control a populace, it felt very I don't know, familiar. Felt very familiar.
At the same time, Mr. Satan is actually good-hearted, so like I can't truly hold a whole lot against him.
He gets good-hearted when it matters. Like he saved Palace-chan.
Yeah. Let's talk about Goten a little bit, because this is
Oh my God, he's like a different dude.
Yeah.
We get hints of this at the end of Dragon Ball Z.
We do, yeah.
Like, and it's only one episode or two that we get to spend. I guess it's even in the manga too, where we get the sense like he cares about dating and he's got a one-track mind, and that's
right.
okay.
They took that and ran with it here. This is the most Goten in any Dragon Ball franchise thing. I'm not naming specific things. This is the most that Goten does or has
You
ever
feel like
or
you
will
don't
do.
get Goten during the Buu saga?
As a part of Gotenks, I feel like everything that Goten is in service to getting to Gotenks, even when Toriyama doesn't really realize it himself. Goten individually doesn't do a whole lot there. I think he's fun. I think he's nice to have around, but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't accomplish anything.
He's just a
simply
foil
there.
to Trunks.
Yes,
mostly.
he's there to play off of Trunks, and they're great as a duo. As an individual character, Goten doesn't exist. He just doesn't. There's nothing to the character of Goten. So to get anything in GT is actually kind of refreshing and fun. And the moment where he throws the phone up and he catches the phone behind his back, it's like, oh, Goten's actually fucking awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Really loved his character here.
I think he did a lot. He was very smart. He could sense the energy going on with Baby. He wasn't completely oblivious to everything that was happening. Yes, he was on a date, and yes, he wanted to go back to the date. But when shit got real, Goten really knew what he had to do and was willing to do it, even by himself. I thought he really took charge.
It was just fun to watch, too.
Now, in addition to that, Palace-chan is just charming. I really enjoy it.
I want to know the backstory of how he met this chick, because we have Chi-Chi going off on like, don't you let that city girl mess you up. But then we meet her and she's
She's a
dense.
diss.
Yeah.
She's never had ice cream before. And she's like, oh, my mom and dad will be so surprised to hear that I had ice cream. So like clearly Chi-Chi had nothing to worry about. Right. But it makes you wonder like, in what circumstance would have Goten met up with this chick?
How did he meet this person? And why is he Goten-sama? Why?
I love it. I love it. Goten-sama. Because he doesn't deserve it, but it's awesome.
No, I guess she's just so enamored with him that she loves him even more when he's evil. All right, so I guess let's get into, we get some of the fights here. From here on out, we're pretty much going to have Saiyan versus Saiyan with Baby involved here. Baby versus Goten. There was some good stuff going on in and around here.
Yeah.
There was.
I definitely agree. I think this is the part where we get introduced to the idea of a cut or a direct link to the bloodstream is where Baby
like an opening
gets in. This is where we're introduced to that. And I feel that particular point, originally I wasn't a huge fan of it because I think, oh, it's so easy. But seeing it laid out is actually really well done, I feel like. Where
So
it's
it would
not
have been different if it happened just the one time with Trunks, but then it happened with every other time we saw it with like Goten and then Gohan.
Gohan was a little different. I think Gohan did get sliced, but that was more of when Gohan powered up, Baby kind of took that opportunity. Baby's got this thing like when they go on the offense, that's the opening to get in.
Sure.
So
yeah, well, for me, it was first a little inconsistent because he wasn't doing that with some of the other characters that we were seeing, like the people, basically.
I guess the people are just too easy to get in.
That's probably it.
Exactly. That's why I felt like the fact that he had to go in through a cut with them in particular made so much sense.
That does make sense.
That actually,
it's kind of smart.
It is, exactly. It made me feel much better about the writing because that's a really smart way to do things. And then they didn't even point it out at all.
Which is also very clever. It's like, leave it up to the audience to figure that out on their own, like we're doing right now, and don't pander to us. You don't have to explain every little thing.
Can I just say that Trunks greater than Goten because Trunks was able to resist Baby?
Yes.
Therefore,
I mean,
That's a good
obviously,
point.
I'm biased, so I can't have an opinion there. Of course, I'm going to say Trunks is better than Goten, but
No, even I agree. I feel like that was a very good point to bring up too. The fact that he couldn't control Trunks' mind. He couldn't.
Trunks pushed him out.
Trunks is smarter. I mean, as adorable as Goten is, he is a little dense. He's always been written as dense, but Trunks has always been written as this version.
He's got street smarts.
Yeah, this version of Trunks, not talking about future Trunks. This version of Trunks has always been written as street smarts, and then as he inherited Capsule Corp, like, oh, you're Science dude now too.
Well, I hate to rewind a little bit, but in that same vein, when he is able to expel Baby, you see how exhausted he is from that process.
Right, it was a lot for him. Sure.
So it sets the idea of just how much power it takes for a person to expel him from from themselves.
And more than that, once we get on to Goten to Gohan to Vegeta, it shows how much Baby's powering up, that he's independent of all that, able to fully control them.
Yeah,
from there on out.
that's really well done in that sense too.
I think that speaks volumes and is well written in that respect.
Yeah, the writing is just incredible.
They don't have to tell us every little thing.
Well, again, that comes back to when I asked you, like, is there a change in staff? Because I feel like the writing was better, the direction was better, the pacing was better. Like, what the hell happened?
They just found what they wanted to do here, and they had a better idea of where
I agree
they
with
wanted
that
to go with
because
it,
they saw that the travel wasn't going to go well, and they just saw the pitfall that was coming in front of them and said, "No, we got to make a direct change
seems like
now."
they just
Which
let that
sucks
stuff
because
ride.
I
and
wanted
then-
the adventuring to go well, but
Yeah.
I think, Jeff, you nailed it when you said, like, these three don't gel very well.
There's no chemistry
I think
there.
as pairs, they would be awesome. Like Trunks and Pan, I always wanted there to be some off to the side sexual tension that was bait for fan fiction and doujinshi that would
didn't
never
need
happen.
anything else. There already is. Just the fact that they were together was enough for people.
Right. And then like Pan and Goku, like very much a strong dynamic because you got granddaughter and
Yeah,
grandfather interacting together. As pairs, I think they're interesting, but the three of them together, I'm like,
Yeah.
don't
Curious.
know.
That dynamic just doesn't super work.
I know
together.
while we're also messing with our timelines and we're bouncing all over the place
Yeah.
when we're talking about Trunks expelling Baby out of him, I think he was uncharacteristically cocky, which I kind of found interesting when he was like,
Trunks?
I am
Yeah.
Trunks.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, bitch, I'm Trunks. Which, like, maybe this version of Trunks would talk that way, but when I think about future Trunks, I'm like, I don't know that he would talk that way.
Well, this isn't Future Trunks.
I know it's not Future
This is one
Trunks.
of those rare examples. You actually mentioned this at least once verbally while we were watching the episodes. Like, oh, this is in fact Chibi Trunks. This is not Future Trunks. Yeah. It was good to get a little bit of that character consistency because Trunks and GT always felt like, yes, it's Chibi Trunks, but they really wanted to write another Future Trunks. So
It's like you didn't nail what makes Chibi Trunks. You have to be a little obnoxious. You have to be a little cocky.
And he is a good character separate from Future Trunks. You just have to know how to write that. And,
Because they are distinctly different characters.
yeah.
They forget that sometimes. And I feel like when they get a taste of how to nail that, it's satisfying, but they don't go all the way.
Hey, did you guys know that Piccolo existed?
That was really cool seeing him again. I was like, oh my God, Piccolo! I kind of fangirled for a moment when they showed Piccolo's back with the cape and the turban.
Yeah, having Piccolo there, it's really been the Science show up until now. We're not getting any of the previous human friend characters. It's been the two Saiyan families and their kids, and that's great and all, but there was a colorful other cast, and unfortunately here, Piccolo doesn't do anything.
No.
We get that initial, oh, I can feel an evil energy, something's going on, and then we get a Makanko Sapo, and then he gets blown away, and that's all we know of Piccolo here in these episodes. But if you're gonna do Gohan is in trouble, you gotta do Piccolo shows up.
And the fact that he is so attuned to Gohan, he spoke very little, but what he did say was really Piccolo, quintessential Piccolo, because he said, okay, you're not Gohan. Who the hell are you?
Right.
Kind of statement. It's like he doesn't even need to be in this situation more than 5 seconds, and he can already tell like that's not Gohan.
I think that was great about Piccolo and Vegeta is even Gohan really. Videl and Gohan were both completely attuned to something was going on. The little bit of dialogue we got between them when baby Goten first came back to Capsule Corporation, they knew something was going on. And Gohan was very casually and trying to naturally get Goten out of the house so as to not worry Chi-Chi and just kind of resolve things.
Speaking of Chi-Chi, can we talk about her a bit?
Yes,
How
we have
hilarious
to.
she was! Friggin' hilarious in these episodes.
Slapping baby Goten is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Was she always such a Goten playing
No,
favorites? Because I feel like that kind of, I mean, if there's anything I got to ding her on, was that seemed to come out of nowhere. She was like, Goten, running around freaking
That did
out.
seem strange, yeah.
Yeah, in the original series, it always felt like she just kind of gave up on Goten.
That's what I thought too.
But I guess here, since Gohan's married off, like, well, he's the only one left at home. So
She needs someone else to support her codependency.
Exactly.
Right.
That's clearly what it is.
Yeah.
So,
And very clingy all throughout, even though when the characters come back and they're not themselves, right?
Yeah.
They're infused with baby at this point. The way that she plays off of that is rather interesting because you know as an audience member that she doesn't know that these characters are different. She doesn't
Right.
have the same kind of sense that everybody else does. And she's a pure human, right? She's not.
Yep.
So because of that, there's this interesting conversation going on between the characters. And I mean, I feel sort of bad for her at parts because she gets beaten up and slapped around a little bit to move the story story along, especially with Goten, who
pushes her out of the way.
Says, I gotta go, gives no explanation. She's off, left crying like, oh my God, my baby's uncontrollable. Funny as it is, it's still a bit, tense in situations because she's getting hit on in a lot of these instances. Whereas we don't really see that with Bulma or with any of the other characters that do not do any fighting, as it were.
Equally great scene with Chi-Chi is baby Goten going into Goten's memories and being like, this is the most powerful person. How is she powerful? There's nothing special about her. I better just play along.
I better adapt to this planet's customs.
These customs and character
that level
moments.
of self-awareness.
Yeah. Can I add one other thing, though,
Please.
about these fights with Gohan and Goten? I find it entertaining that Gohan takes Goten when it comes to the brotherly wrestling, which I felt was a really good excuse for them two being angry at each other. It just seems that they go to this barren land, there's nothing around, it's all landscape, as if they have this designated area to fight in case something is to happen.
Right.
But at the same time, there's no evidence in that area of previous fights, which I felt was a lost opportunity. It would have been really nice had there been craters from fights long ago.
This is their training ground that they go to leave to when something's
That
going
would have
on.
been cool.
At least even from the Z era, there were a lot of fights in barren lands. We could have seen like an old Tenkaichi Budokai fighting arena somewhere. Just a little bit of hints in the background that there's an awareness to the previous series.
I guess they didn't want to take them too far away, anything like that.
Maybe not, but it just seemed to me like it's cute that they have this other area to go to, but there's nothing tying it in. And I felt like that could have been something.
You know what I found satisfying about this fight was that it's the first time Goten and Gohan have really fought
That's
against
true.
each other.
Right,
Yeah.
we got that early training in the Buu arc where they're teaching
that doesn't
everyone
count
how to
'cause they're
fly.
training.
Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of interaction between the two brothers here. So for them to talk about this brotherly stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I guess they're brothers and have a relationship that we never see
Off screen.
as viewers, completely off screen.
But I'll say that it was nice to see them interact finally in this case.
It was.
Even if it was a fight and one of them's not really themselves.
Yeah, and you buy it. You believe everything
Yeah.
they're saying. What I want to talk about with these fights, especially as everyone's getting infected and then turning into Super Saiyan, every character looks like Vegeta.
Because
in
everyone
GT.
got a stupid haircut.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. If
Yeah.
it wasn't for the stupid haircuts, I think they would look a little bit more differentiated.
I agree.
It also doesn't help that Gohan was wearing a white dress shirt and Gohan's wearing a white sweatshirt.
Yeah, everything,
So at
and they get
times-
blown off, and then they're just topless, which is fine too. Then when the smoke clears, that's Vegeta's silhouette. Like it just is. I'm sorry, you're just drawing Vegeta over and over and over here. And I guess when you make these characters look evil, that is Vegeta's design at this point. So what else do you do? I have such a problem. In all promotional materials and show the show not be named, like no one knows how to draw Gohan ever once he reaches 16 years old onward, except for Toriyama himself. And I feel like there's one Yamamuro thing I've seen that's like, oh yeah, you remembered how to draw Gohan. But just in general, I feel like no one truly captures. There's just this je ne sais quoi about the way that Toriyama can draw Gohan, and you believe that is a separate character, everyone else in this series, and he looks visually distinct, and I buy it. And no one at Toei can capture this.
Really? Like even you're talking about like in the manga too, where he's...
No, in the manga, I totally buy Gohan as a separate character, separate design. There's something about the length of his hair, the length of his face, just the shape of his body.
And his eyes.
His eyes. Toriyama captures it, and I buy the visual distinction. No one else can capture that. And I don't know what it is. I'm not talented enough to even attempt to describe what it is.
See, I heard you guys say this when we were watching the episodes, and I'm thinking, well, I can tell the difference kind of a little bit between the characters. I didn't think it was... I mean, I was seeing it as you were saying it, but at the same time, I was, I don't know, internally, I guess, fighting against it because I saw them still differentiated a bit. Granted, the baby stuff comes in pretty quickly, and so they end up getting the eyes changed and whatever, but I can't say that I've noticed it as much. Maybe that's because I'm seeing the Goku in Gohan, or maybe more the Chi-Chi in Gohan than the Goku in Gohan, but him as a drawn character, I was able to see, well, you slap glasses and a tie on somebody, and I guess I can treat it as a character.
I think part of the problem is everyone seems to tend to slick back Gohan's hair a little too much, and it's not that. It's more narrow standing up.
But then the problem is that Vegeta got his stupid haircut, and then Gohan essentially has a slanty haircut,
Goten's
the same
hair is going to the
style.
side, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Goten, sorry.
I have to say I was disappointed by Vegeta's haircut here. Because it's not I want the large spiky hair, and I'm expecting remnants of the blue suit somewhere, but we're not getting that at all.
No, we're not. No.
We're
He's
far
got his
beyond
maroon shirt and all
Yeah.
that's going to get blown off.
and he
Is it
looked a
maroon?
lot better without his
With
mustache.
pants.
And I got to say, though, he does look better without a mustache and beard, definitely.
He does. I mean, that was a clear reaction to the initial design from Toriyama there, but I think it was appropriate. They did a lot with that. So that was good. Like they're very self-aware about everything in these episodes, and that just makes them more enjoyable. Like the pacing's better, the storytelling is better.
The settings are better too. I have to say, are we on the last episode now?
We're everywhere. Wherever you want to be, we are.
Last episode, the setting of that fight in a series of like wind mills was like visually very different from anything we've ever seen before, where it looks like it could exist in real life. They're not going to a barren wasteland. They're off a highway and there are these windmills or wind generators. I don't know what they are. And then there was one shot. It was a long shot. I remember there was like a fence, like just a regular fence on the outside of the windmills. And I thought that just looks so everyday and different. I appreciate that they collectively would have sat down and thought about what is the scenery going to look like for this fight.
Something I actually really like about GT, I think the background settings are always gorgeous and well constructed, and there's thought behind them.
Actually, something that I thought about as we get into each of these fights, so starting basically with Baby and the three main characters, is the sense of the environment that they have when they go into battles. Because, and I should say, like in the first battle with the three of them, it wasn't that strong. It felt like there was too much activity for such a small space. And then when they get to Earth and they have much wide open spaces, the environment comes into play a lot more. And especially when we get to Vegeta's fight, that's where it's really brought in. With the windmills, especially when they're part of the scenery and the fight and they're getting damaged as things are going on, that to me was a much stronger sense of how they were using the environment in part of their fight. Whereas when we start with the first fight, it's really just seemingly random in this spaceship, which doesn't really, it just doesn't feel right to have this kind of battle going on there. And it just opens up, and it does feel like, again, Meri, going back to your point about the interview and saying that we're changing direction, it does feel like when they made that decision, there were a lot of other things they decided on to bring things back to their roots, and that was the smartest thing they could have done because it greatly influenced almost everything around it.
We know what strikes me about that is that we're saying how happy we are that they brought things back to Earth and, they're bringing back the action and whatnot, and then almost seems counterproductive to what one would want out of something like GT, where it's like, oh no, I want something different from a fight show. I want action. I want humor. And yet we tried it and it didn't work. So then going back to the fight stuff somehow feels better. And I don't know why I'm okay with that, which feels weird.
I'm going to tell you why. Because the premise of GT when it starts is we have to leave Earth and go get these Dragon Balls across the galaxy or across the universe. And that is drastically different from what we see in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, which is happening on Earth the entire time, and what's going on in a location that we can attach ourselves to. When we leave Earth, basically we're having to adjust to this new environment.
But we've had that. We went to Namek before, and we had an entire arc there.
That's true. All of the Frieza arc was on Namek.
It's true, but we had stronger chemistry between characters.
We had great character chemistry there. We had Gohan Kudadin, we had Vegeta entering the mix, and then we get Goku in and out, Vegeta in and out, we get Ginyu Force showing up, we had Sarban Midoriya, I guess.
And so we're bringing these new environments in as we're going through the universe, and we're just not caring because they're gone the next episode, or they're more tools of the enemy than they are tools of the good guys. And so we just disregard them as we move from episode to episode, and then finally we get back to Earth. There's a place that we're familiar with, the characters that we're familiar with. Things are a lot easier to deal with.
We are so ready to get back to Earth at this point.
I think the writers are too.
Yeah.
Because
it's familiar
shows.
To them. Yeah.
And it shows that they know how to write the characters. So it's refreshing that things get better as Earth is brought in. It doesn't make any of the previous episodes seem silly. We did have to go through the story of going to space, but what a relief it is to come back to Earth and have it be as good with these familiar characters as it once was.
Yeah. Something I want to ask you guys is, speaking of retreads, we talked earlier about Sulfurians and Saiyans, how that's being redone. What are your thoughts on Vegeta specifically being taken over again?
Oh, I wanted to get at that. Yeah,
we had Babidi taking over Vegeta before the Majin charm.
Buu, yeah.
So I guess the key difference is that with the Majin Buu stuff, Vegeta went willingly to a certain extent. and this is against his will. But at the same time, the fact that Vegeta is ripe for this kind of takeover is kind of fascinating. I guess that's just virtue of, he's a really, really strong guy. He's the second strongest dude. Let's take advantage of him.
And this is why I got used to Baby and started enjoying that whole idea at this point, because we got to see him get stronger. We knew his method of taking over the Saiyans. We now know what his motivation is. When he gets into Vegeta, it just feels like this is the right culmination
very natural
of things.
for that, yeah.
And also very good on the choice of episodes to watch, because this is a really good ending point.
Well, I got to thank Cypher. I think Kaboom chimed in as well on this. I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to do 4 or 5. Like, no, you really got to go to this one. It was a good ending point right here.
It definitely is, because it feels like this is where Baby has been trying to get to this whole time.
And we got there, yeah.
And we got there, so now we're going to have to go
satisfying.
from here. Yeah. Extremely satisfying.
But at the same time, I guess I can't help that part of me is still a little bit pissed off. It's like, Vegeta's getting possessed again. Like, I want to find it to be lazy writing, but I guess it's different enough from the Majin Vegeta stuff that I can forgive it. Because honestly, like, who else is he going to possess? I mean, we just went through Gohan and Goten. There's not a second best on the planet Earth. It has to be Vegeta.
Anything else, y'all?
I really just liked it.
Yeah, this is, I think, the first time in our GT reviews where we're all going, this was good. I would not have minded watching the next episode.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. You know, Mike, I have notes.
Okay.
Maybe I should structure it this way. I have questions for you guys this time.
I love it.
Does anyone feel like the Kamehameha
Gets a little overused here.
Yes, it's trope territory at this point, right?
It's been a trope.
It has been, but here... Did we hear it once per episode at this point?
Roughly.
Yeah. And from multiple characters, no less.
Yeah.
Very true. Although it became a trope for me when it was them floating in space. Going back to episode 23 here.
Using the recoil to...
Yes, exactly. Using it as a tool.
But that's smart. I feel like that's
it could have just been a generic key blast, though.
Yeah, it could have been anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Why'd you have to label it the Kamehameha at this particular point? So that is where I started to see it happen that way. And then we see it again and again. Okay. But you did say there was a different attack on Piccolo, though.
Oh, Piccolo used just his attack that he fired out after he arrived, the Makanko Sapo. It didn't really do anything. It just flew off into the distance. But I think that was just we're showing that Piccolo has arrived.
Yeah.
So.
That's just a shame that he didn't get more time than that. But certainly that helped things, I feel like. Now, granted, when they're on the ship and they grab the dying boy, they're walking around the ship without helmets at some point, which means they're able to breathe on the spaceship.
Well, they did mention when they got into the room with the Dragon Ball, someone said something about, there's some oxygen left in here. So,
which is fine, but as far as I know, this character that they're saving is humanoid. So when they're flying off in space, everybody's wearing their helmet, but the kid isn't?
No, I think he actually
had
did
a
have
helmet on.
They had something on him.
I was looking specifically for that. I thought he didn't wear a helmet.
I'm pretty sure he had some kind of suit on him. I don't know if it was full suit, but he had something.
Maybe I missed it because
they put him in something.
I thought it's strange that it was like, wait, they're leaving. He doesn't have a helmet. Now he's back on the ship. Anyway, so I thought that was weird, but I could be wrong on that. Okay, episode 25. The human that is first taken over by Baby.
Oh, did you feel that it was sort of a Terminator reference?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I was going to say Schwarzenegger much?
Rising out of the flames and
Cool. I'm so glad you both thought that too.
Exactly. And this may reference some YouTubers that your audience watch, but I'm just going to say, cool guys don't look at explosions, because that totally happened here. I'll say this about the falling gag. I actually thought it went on for too long.
Yeah.
It was cute, but...
Which gag?
The falling gag where it was the lizard that was over the cliff and he looks down, the foot's wiggling.
A little bit. They did too many cutaways back and forth, just maybe one or two too many. But then when he fell, it really all paid off, and then the birds flew away.
That sold it for me. Was when the birds actually were real.
Yeah, I picked it out as something that was slightly odd. It was just the timing of that, but I guess they were trying to take a joke they've seen before and just do it themselves.
It's we got to make this overtly American.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Let's really show how absolutely out of place this is.
Yep. So then my last point I want to bring up, and it's a question for everybody here. We get to the idea of the Sufruians against the Saiyans, and Baby's taking over Vegeta. He's getting to it. And so we learn Baby's intentions and why he wants to destroy the Saiyans. My question to you guys is, do you care?
I don't care. Because, with Dragon Ball, it's all about the journey and not about the end game. So I'm used to not caring. That sounds terrible. Yeah. I'm used to not caring about what the villain wants.
Well, don't feel too bad.
Your question is, do I really care about his motivation in Endgame?
When we finally get there, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm a little I don't know. I guess I internally arguing on this point with myself because initially I did not care at all because it just took so long to get there. I wasn't a fan of Baby in the first place.
Right.
Time goes on. We're thinking back on it. We're explaining things and I'm really liking it. But initially it was just a point of like, I just need this character to be done with at this point. And I'm happy that we're back on Earth and all this
That's
stuff's
the
going
thing
on.
is everything else that's going on is making up for what little you thought you cared about it. And it's just a means to an end of getting these characters
That's how it always
doing cool
feels,
things
though.
again. So.
Just a means to an end.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just be honest that when we first got to that point, I was just like, okay, look, I just want to move on here. But as we go back and talk about it, I'm giving it more seriousness and actually enjoying it. But right. And my initial response at first was really just being unsure if this was the right way to head.
I want to talk about the funny costumes that they put the core trio in once they've been relegated to almost B-plot. We had them in funny Eskimo suits. We had them in funny Mexican party gear and party hats.
Oh, that was adorable.
I liked the concept of Pon's diary. It would have been cool if they did more with that. Because then I think we would have gotten more attached to the character and got more of a perspective of her. If she had like a video diary that every few episodes she is venting to the camera like a reality TV show.
That would have been really cute. Yeah, because like I was saying, it would have been nice if we had gotten to see Pon grow up, and we do get to see that, but definitely not as much as I feel she would have benefited from. And this would have been a nice way, especially in that method where she could reflect on what she's been going through. They could have done some kind of humorous thing with that. The costumes easily could have been a thing they could have attributed to that kind of thing as well. They don't do it, and you're right. It does feel a little empty in terms of her character because they never get to have her really do any kind of reflection at all. They just sort of push her along this travel. But I really love the costumes as well. The Mexican thing was so cute when they were
I love
doing
they
that.
even have that on board. Like you got party hats on board. You got funny glasses on board.
How do you explain Pon having a spacesuit with her name on it when she's not supposed to be on the spaceship in the first place?
Wow.
Shut it all down.
Can you believe I didn't write that in my notes? I just remembered that.
I'm done. You ruined Dragon Ball GT, Jeff. One thing I want to talk about, Jeff, do a little bit of a la la la. I don't know how much you saw there. So the last episode that we watched here, we had the new ending theme, the second ending theme to Dragon Ball GT, Don't You See? This is episode 27, which aired November 1996. Something shows up here in this ending theme for the first time that we see in the series. It's not in the opening theme yet. It's still 2 months off from happening. But
So 8 episodes roughly.
right. So this is the thing where I don't have all the V-jumps from 1997 in front of me at the moment. I don't have them all, but this is definitely the time when they're going to start promoting
A thing.
what their next big thing is. And it makes sense from a casual viewer. If you don't look at any outside material, and it's impossible if you're in Japan to live in a bubble and not see all this extra stuff, that would have come out of nowhere in the ending theme and maybe have surprised you. So I just kind of wanted to note that there. Maybe that's something that I can dig into a little more as a side project and start to see what the early introduction stuff for would be. So there's that. All right, Jeff, you can come on back.
All right. Thank you. I'm here.
Let's go to predictions.
Oh, God.
We left it in a great place. Goten has been infected. Gohan has been infected. Baby is more completely in charge of Vegeta here. So he's laying these eggs. He's looking to, how do you phrase it, Sufurianize the entire world.
You know, we didn't actually expand on that in our discussion either, but that is an interesting way to take things.
It's not just Saiyan revenge. I kind of want to repopulate and create my own vision of the future here.
Smart.
So we have our trio out in space. They have all 7 Ultimate Dragon Balls. Their mission was to do that and come back to Earth. They're going to come back to Earth. And here we have Baby in Vegeta. So Jeff, where do you think Dragon Ball GT goes from here in episode 28 onward?
Oh, man.
I feel like it's harder this go around because the episodes were so decent.
Yeah.
That with
And they're dense too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are dense. The pacing's so much better. We get to do a lot of stuff here. Oh, man, what happens? All right. Well, we're definitely going to be fighting Baby, that's for sure. There's no way around that. Mm-hmm. Or a Vegeta controlled by Baby, although Vegeta is conscious with Baby inside of him.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of that, but it seems like he's kind of taking over more and more.
Which means that if they fight Vegeta, they don't want to fight him enough to kill him, which we saw already in a previous fight, and that ended up going okay. But this is with a much stronger baby here, and only getting stronger because he's got the influence of all these other Saiyajin that he's been infecting. So, gosh, I can't say that we're going to see the death of baby anytime soon. It's probably going to be a couple episodes on this one, but man, that's going to be a lot of fighting. I can't imagine it's going to be another... Oh, well, let's not forget that, hey, our trio has gotten all the Dragon Balls. How much time does it take for them to get back to Earth? Right. And so I'm going to predict right now, that this is an easy prediction, that baby will not be dead before the 3 come back.
Okay.
So basically, they're going to have the Dragon Balls. Baby's still going to be there, and I'll make the prediction that somehow the Dragon Balls and Baby's existence have something to do with each other. Like maybe they use the Dragon Balls to wish Baby away. That means they'd also have to make a wish to get Goku back to his adult form. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
Connection, maybe Dragon Ball somewhere.
Yes, the 3 coming back is going to be sometime as well. Granted, why haven't they been able to communicate with anybody on Earth with all this technology?
They even said that themselves. It would have been nice if they contacted us, let them know how they're doing.
Yeah. So
we got that in the Namek arc where Bulma was always talking home and saying what was going on. How long is it going to take for Goku to get here?
Yeah, exactly.
They're perfectly capable of interuniversal.
They just choose not to.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to see if they're able to get back in time. I'll predict that they do with the Dragon Balls, but that's probably going to be at the end of the next couple episodes we're going to watch.
Just so you know, I've decided we're going to watch 4 episodes next time. So next time on the show, if you're playing along with home, we'll be watching Dragon Ball GT episodes 28, 29, 30, 31.
And I just want to actually iterate something that I don't think any of our listeners know, and that is that I don't do any research on GT in between. I haven't heard anything about Super. I don't look at anything about GT. People might have noticed that I've been on the forums since I was able to figure out what my password was.
Oh, really? That's fun.
Yeah, exactly. But I haven't done anything besides researching what I already know. So I really am going into this cold, have no idea where we're going.
It's exactly what I want. I think we need that perspective.
Well, I can't even look at episode titles.
No, you can't.
Because, I mean, even with this set, there was one that was like Baby on Earth. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I know what's going on now.
Right. Yeah, I started skipping them. So other predictions, we've talked about Connection, Baby Dragon Balls. They got to come back, and Vegeta's kind of in charge here with Baby. And
I really do think it's going to be that they're just fighting Baby Vegeta.
Well, what does that mean? What does fighting in Dragon Ball GT mean to you?
Especially since Gohan and Goten are technically controlled by Baby as well.
So who's like, what's going to happen? You said they're not going to get back right away. They'll be back in time. So what can possibly happen here on Earth in the meantime?
This is the perfect opportunity to go get your characters like Krillin, like Tenshinhan.
It's okay. You can look at the poster for reference.
That's funny. You're right.
What they decided to go do.
Yeah, that's true.
These are the ones that they decided
Here
you
are the
get.
ones that you can choose from.
Well, very true. You could bring back Master Roshi, like all these other guys. Maybe even Boo, right? Boo's not technically dead. I don't know how that goes, but
yeah, we have Boo. We also... Do you remember the first episode of Dragon Ball GT?
Are you kidding? How many years ago was that?
Sorry.
So Goku is training off some little kid that he found. So it was a reincarnation of Boo. But
That's right.
Fat Boo still exists too.
But Fat Boo still exists.
Okay, so Oob.
Yes.
Oob is the character. Gosh, would Oob come back? That would be interesting. I'm going to predict Oob comes back too.
Sorry if I led you a little bit there.
No, but that's a very important character that was in the first episode of GT, and also in the recap episode we watched that I conveniently forgot about.
The Funimation.
Totally forgot about that. But no, I'd say Oob comes back too. So yeah, you take the opportunity, bring these characters back, have them stall for time.
You got there naturally. I just gave you a little kick there to.
Yeah, totally fine. So stall for time, get it to a point where the core group can come back with the Dragon Balls, and let's see what happens.
That sounds good to me. So just so y'all know, theoretically, next month we will cover the
And you know what?
4.
I will go willingly this time.
Yeah.
Now that the episodes are actually decent.
So I guess that's going to bring our episode of podcast to a close. Jeff, unrelated to Dragon Ball, but if people like you, they like your voice, they like your perspective, you got other material on the internet.
Well, you might get a different perspective if you do listen to Lo-Fi, where I'm the one coming in with the historical context. Mike, you're the one who's coming in fresh.
Oh, I love it.
But
it's like that reversal.
Definitely a role reversal. But if you care to listen to that sort of thing, we also have a podcast called Low Fidelity. Mike and I co-host, of course. You're welcome to listen to it. Lowfidelity.info is the website. If you want to go look at previous episodes, we have a Reddit, or a subreddit rather, which is r/low_fidelity. We're on Twitter at Lo-Fi Podcast. We have an episode coming out at the I don't know. Hopefully not too long to
It's
the
a
end
major
of this month.
podcast day for us here in Kanzenshuu headquarters east here.
It is.
A lot of recording today.
It is, but I will definitely try before the last week of the month to get this next episode out, which is our discussion on ambitious projects in popular music. We had a discussion of what that means, what an ambitious project is, as well as 2 examples, one of them being Zyrika from the Flaming Lips, released in 1997, and Chinese Democracy from Guns N' Roses, released in 2008. Feel free to check that episode out, as well as all of our previous episodes. Would love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah. Again, this was a while ago, but in the feed, people got the Yellow Magic Orchestra review, so hopefully they enjoyed that. If you like that and you just kind of want to listen to other associated things, enjoy. And Meri, you exist?
I exist.
Hey.
I mean, basically, that's all I do these
Existing is
days.
basically all I do.
These days. Not so much on the interwebs these days.
That's
but
fine.
That's fine.
It's a bad place. Don't be there.
I know. But when I do go out, I enjoy it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So what episode? Jeez, I don't even remember. This was episode
437.
437 of our podcast. We should probably
Crazy.
be long past 500 by now. We haven't had.
We've had some breaks.
So www.kanzenshuu.com. That is Kanzenshuu. There you can find myself. You can find Heath and Julian and Jake and all of our good friends talking about Dragon Ball. Every single day there's something new on the site. Pretty much every day there's some kind of edit somewhere on the site.
You just gotta find it.
You just gotta find it.
Search for the Dragon Balls. You should put hidden Dragon Balls on random pages on the website and do a
Who says
contest.
there's not?
Ooh.
There's not. So I guess I just said it.
That'd be fun though. It would be a good
That's amazing.
incentivized
You
way to
can't
get.
tell them.
No, it'd be cool. Like do it as a future. Like if you have a random extra game copy that you want to pawn off, and you'd be like, find a 7 Dragon Balls, and you put like a little image on
I'm
a random
sure there'd be a
page.
way to script.
That's
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
see
You have to
the
give it like a really
HTML.
stupid file name.
And they'd all be different file names and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to start like putting random images on other pages and
Right.
then,
right.
right?
Miscolor some of them so they're not actually Dragon Balls. They're like fake Dragon Balls. Yeah, it's like fake Namek.
I was gonna say he had some crabs on a page. He's a giant crab.
Anyway, I've been working with Heath on some cool stuff. I'm really excited to see what's coming to the site visually and from a content standpoint. It's going to be a great year for the website. Very excited. So check all that out, the website itself, all the social medias. Glad to see you. Glad to hear from you. Send us an email, send us a tweet, send us something. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what you're enjoying, what you want to see. That's it. Again, I've been Mike. So for all these cool folks, we will see you next time on episode 438 of our podcast. Have a lovely day, lovely week, lovely month. Hopefully we'll see you in less than a month. Bye-bye. Baby Goten arrives, and Videl and Gohan can tell what the hell just happened. How could that possibly have happened?
My elbow. It was a hammer, and it scared
Phew.
It did. I turned around like, why is there a hammer? Okay.
I have to start this section over for the 3rd time. All right.